welcome back to Talking Tunes. There's a new member. There you go. This is Dusty. She's joined us today to crunch really loudly on biscuits and hopefully fall asleep.
Hopefully.
Fingers
crossed.
That's why she's quite close to me and not in the middle, because she kept trying to run around. So
yeah,
she
decided she wanted to drink coffee with us.
She wants to drink coffee and herbal tea. So she's going to be quite quiet, aren't you? And you're going to sit there. And we're going to discuss our 2023 in review.
Yeah.
And some stuff that we're excited for next year.
Yeah.
It's been a big year.
There's a lot to sort of kick off with. It's been quite a while since we've even done
a podcast. We said that
it was going to be weekly. But let's quickly talk about that. I think let's start us off.
Explain ourselves.
Yeah. So the last time you guys heard from us, we were still in Brisbane in Australia. Yeah. And since then we have come home back to England, which is where we are right now. And en route, we also went to Japan for 9 days.
Yeah.
And then it's been Christmas and holidays. And we obviously aren't currently living together. Hence, so it was easy. Well, it was easier in Australia, but at the moment it's a bit harder. So it has been a slow effort to get back to here. But we've done it
now, and we've got the third member. So it was worth the wait, wasn't it?
It is. Because look at her. For anyone listening to this, I'm so sorry you don't get to see her. I recommend you should check out the YouTube where you can see the little fluffy dog.
Yes. I recommend also. She's very, very cute.
Yeah, she is actually adorable.
Yeah.
And we're sort of hoping that everyone comes to the podcast just to see her.
Yes.
Instead of us.
Yeah. You're going to put all the work in.
But music. That's what we're here to talk about, as well as dogs. It was a pretty crazy year for music. However, and I think this is something we should talk about, I was pretty lazy when it came to music last year. I think...
Me too.
Yeah, I think because we were traveling, what I found was that we spent so much time doing things, meeting people, seeing sites, looking for jobs, working jobs to get off the ground, and then we'd move and have to do it all again.
Yeah.
I didn't really have a lot of time to discover music. I was a lot of time to listen to music, walking to work, or when you'd be at work and I was on my own, or we'd be cooking in the kitchen, and things like that. And driving, that's a big thing I think we should talk about. But in terms of like time to actually go out there and find music, it turns out it actually takes up quite a lot of time.
It kind of does.
It's not something you can casually do, because the way my brain works is it hears music and it can't. My brain requires like effort to listen to new music because I want to focus on it. And so when we're so busy and I'm just running to work, I don't always want to put on a brand new album that I'm only going to listen to for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because then I'm going to get to work, forget about it, and I'll end up forgetting about the album. I'll just go back to all the classics, which is what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
I
did exactly the same thing.
Yeah. And I think so. We've written a little list of some of the albums that we think were pretty good. And we will get into... I think we sort of shortlisted a personal top 5 each.
Yeah. But
one thing I'll say is that most of the albums that I cared about that were released this year were just albums from bands I was already listening to. There's very few on here that were like brand new.
Yeah.
Like artists that I found, which I think is interesting, because most years it's the opposite. I'll get into a band because of a new album.
Yeah.
Which gets me into all of the discography. But this time it was like the other way around. It's like I already listened to these bands and I was like, oh, they got a new album. Cool. That's all I'm going to listen to for the entire year.
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything? Are you just a bit preoccupied with the doggy?
A bit distracted by the doggy. No, I was just thinking about what you're saying. I think I've done the exact same thing. I think I was kind of lazy last year in terms of discovering new music. As you said, we were just so busy, and when I discover new stuff, I really want to sort of sit around and devote the time to get into it. It was like new stuff from bands I already liked, and sort of differently to how I would usually listen to music. But I think I did discover a lot of new artists last year, but I discovered them sort of by going out in Brisbane or like writing or reviewing about them. So I feel like I've more picked up songs than I have albums because, like, okay, it's just the example basically that I'm thinking of is that when I went to Big Sound in Brisbane, I was reviewing it. It's like a showcase for all these different bands. If you haven't heard the episode where I talked about it, but loads and loads of those bands, they had songs that made it onto like my Wrapped and but this and that, and they were like some of my most listened songs of the year. But I never, because there were sort of so many of them, it was a bit overwhelming. So I never really did a deep dive into like whole albums.
Yeah,
and like you said, with albums, I sort of stuck to the bands that I already liked. But I think I added a lot of new artists and songs, but I didn't deep dive anyone. It was more like broad, I think.
Yeah, I think
listening this year.
To add to that as well, a lot of the music that I think we discovered was very up and coming, like very new bands. And so a lot of those bands simply didn't have albums. Like a lot of them had singles, maybe an EP.
I know exactly.
So for example, I think one of the standout bands I discovered this year was Dr. Shaw's Unusual Practice.
I was going to mention them as well.
Who, we spoke about in the other podcast. We discovered at Big Sound, but they don't have a full album LP out. They only have EPs and singles out. So as much as I love them, they can't appear in notable albums from the last year because they didn't have one.
Really have one.
But that's something that I think we can talk about later, is something that I'm going to look forward to next year in finding a lot of these artists. It's so exciting when you find someone you think these guys could really be one of the most special things you've ever heard. And to find them so early is really exciting because you get to follow along with them. It's
you
great.
just have to wait.
You just got it. It just kind of sucks having to wait. All right. I think. Is there anything else you want to say about that? Do you want to jump into some albums?
No, I think let's start naming some.
Well, do you want to name drop our personal top fives?
Yep.
You're so on edge.
I'm sorry. I thought she was going to go for that. I'm sorry if this podcast is a bit interrupted by. If there's ever like an edit, it's probably because she's lunged for our drinks or something and we've had to grab her. Also, if her chewing is being picked up on my mic, I'm also very sorry. I hope it's just some nice ASMR in the background. Top five. I would say I kind of struggled with 5.
Yeah.
Not because I haven't listened to 5 albums, but because let's be the albums that were released last year, not albums in general.
Yeah, of course.
Not because I didn't listen to 5 new albums, but because, again, I didn't really deep dive as much as I usually would. But that being said, I would say my biggest album of last year was Austin by Post Malone.
Yeah, I thought that would have been yours.
June or April, I think. It wasn't straight away. I think I took a little bit of. Maybe it came out a bit later than that. Maybe it was like July.
I remember. Really I can vividly remember we were in Bunk.
That was when I listened to it, but I don't know if it had come out maybe slightly before.
So that would have been.
I think it
July,
was
August time.
July, yeah. But yeah, that I didn't listen to it straight away. But once I did get around to it, I really, really liked it. I think that stood out to me because I don't know how much I've talked about Post Malone on this channel because he doesn't really align with a lot of my other like top artists. But I really, really like him as a person, as an artist. And I think this album is really intriguing to me because I think this is him making that like first big step in a new direction because there's nothing like it's not completely different, like there's still like pop and rap on there, but as he said, he's sort of, I think he's just being more himself and making the music he wants to make, and it's a lot more guitar focused. Most
a lot of it's acoustic, isn't it? Yeah.
But like a lot more of his actual playing, it's a lot more soulful. Some songs on there are really, really beautiful. But there are also some that are just really cool. Like Something Real is so cool.
Yeah, I think if we were
awesome song.
If we were to talk about a standout song, that's one of them from last year in general, not just Post Malone.
The whole year.
Something Real was
incredible.
When you showed me that, I was like a bit in awe. I was like, this is awesome, and it's so unexpected from him as well.
That's the thing, is it's really hype, but it's not a rap song.
Yeah, and it's not hype in like. It's hype in like a dramatic way as opposed to an energy way, which I think is quite hard to pull off. Yeah, it is, exactly.
He didn't play it live, sadly. We really lucky to, on our last night in Australia, we got press tickets. So we got to see him. I think it was the first night of his Australian tour, so he was super hyped up.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. He didn't play Something Real, which is a shame. But the set list was really good. Loads of really good ones from the new album.
I was going to say, it was kind of the year of Post Malone, wasn't it? Because if you think about, he released an album. For us, we got quite into him. I know you obviously already followed him, but we watched him live. That was his second tour of the year as well. I'm pretty sure he toured with Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
And on top of that,
January.
he had the whole thing with him buying the Magic cards, which put him in headlines for months. It was like the year of Post Malone. It was pretty cool to see him in the headlines for so many different reasons, and also only positive reasons.
Yeah,
no negative press around him.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like he's just being himself. Like the thing with the Magic cards.
It's so cool.
If you don't know the story, basically, there's a lot of backstory. We were following on from the beginning because
I was really I'm a bit into these sort of things, and so I knew about. Well, yeah. So the premise is that Magic the Gathering, is in the trading card game. They released a Lord of the Rings set, which is one of the it's quite rare that they do these crossovers. They've started doing them more recently, but it was really special because they made a one-of card called the One Ring. So there was the One Ring, which was a card you could get, but one version of that somewhere in the world was going to be a limited edition, all in Elvish, literally so cool. One copy of it ever made, ever given out. There's a chance no one would ever find it, because imagine if a pack got thrown in the bin accidentally and it had it in it.
By a child.
Exactly, yeah. So the world sort of went a bit crazy. I'd be surprised if you hadn't heard about this, because it ended up being found by a guy in Canada, and thank God, of all people who could afford to pay for something like that, because it ended up selling for, was it
2 million?
2 million? 2 million. And it was Post Malone.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy, because as opposed to,
cool.
Do you remember, you've told me the story about there was a one-off album that a rap group, Wu-Tang released, and that they really regretted it because it now just sits in some bunker of who was some. So
Wu-Tang Clan, I think it was 2015 or something, around that time. It was quite late. They recorded an album, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's hyper exclusive. There's one. We've made one copy, and we're going to auction it off." And I can't remember who the guy is, so forgive me. But this billionaire bought it. And then he just put it in his house, put it in his vault, and then he actually ended up getting done for fraud, and it got seized. So I don't know where it is now.
The government's got it. The US government.
Yeah, it's probably in the penthouse. But yeah, and then RZA actually came out years after actually, and he was I actually really regret doing that, because it just took the artistry out of it, and people could have enjoyed that album, but we just wanted to make it something exclusive and fun.
Yeah, which I'm not saying that Magic did a better thing. I think
No, but they didn't do it for intending to be sold for 2 million.
No, it was done to create chase, wasn't it? It was done to create a product that everyone wanted to buy. But I'm just glad that the resolution was a genuine nerd, someone who wanted to engage in this media and isn't just buying it because the rest of the world says it's cool. Someone who actually plays Magic, basically, was the one to get it. Yeah. And it's kind of cool it's Post Malone.
Yeah. Well, because he actually plays.
Exactly.
Yeah, he didn't buy it again, he's not like Willy Wonka, he didn't buy it for the sake of buying it. He actually plays it. So it's a cool person has gotten it. He's got 2 million and he's got a cool experience, and then Post Malone's got a card he wanted to have. Yeah. That was a cool thing. And again, I think when we saw Post Malone live, the biggest thing that I've seen him 5 times now, and I think the biggest thing you take from it is his personality just really shines. Especially recently, I noticed it at that concert more than I ever have. I think he just seems very happy in himself, and it just feels it's just fun, and he's a fun guy, and he really engages with his artists, with his audience.
Yeah, no, he does.
And it just, I think he's a great guy to support. I love the new album. I'm really hoping that there's going to be more of his guitar playing.
You keep saying.
I'm really hoping.
No, it was a good year for him. Cool. So that was one of your top 5. Let's go one of my top 5. Yeah. No surprises here for anyone who knows my music taste. Queens of the Stone Age released a brand new album, In Times New Roman. First album since Villains, which was 2017. So it was 6 years at the time. When you think about it, it's actually a really long time. Yeah. And it really delivered. Honestly, I've gone back to it. In my opinion, always shifts, but not for one moment have I ever been disappointed with the album. What I will say is that Queen of the Stone Age suffer from what a lot of similar bands of similar times suffer from. So I think of a lot of 2000s rock bands where there is a huge majority, or maybe the loudest majority on the internet, that think they are only songs to death. And if something doesn't sound like songs to death, they don't want to hear it. And to them, they're like, this is rubbish. It's not the heavy metal you used to make. But that band only had one other member, Josh Homme, and what's he called? Oh my gosh, I can't actually remember his name. The second guitarist, I can't remember her name. I'm gonna kill myself for forgetting this. Essentially, they were the only two members who were in that band back then who are still in the band, because the band has always been a revolving door of people. And so to like complain that it's not the same is fine, complain, but of all bands, this is the most bizarre one to think that, because they've famously changed their sound dramatically with almost every album.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about the sound they made on this one, it's fantastic. It's actually so eclectic, it's so different, it's so varied, but it's still so true to Queens of the Stone Age. And I know the song that stuck with me the most, and I know stuck with you the most, Sicily. Oh my God. It's so cool to see Queens of the Stone Age go back to this sort of like dark symphonic sort of sound that would creep into their stuff around like Lullabies to Paralyze sort of era. And to hear that come back in with this it's one of the most like atmospheric, like gloomy, dark songs I've ever heard. And it's so cool to hear them doing it still. Because Villains had a lot of sort of like commercial sort of sound to it, which was fine. And there were songs that broke away from that, but only to a point. And when they were done, I don't think it was done very well.
Yeah.
Whereas on this one, when they've done that breakaway from the commercial sound, they have nailed it. There's one, Made to Parade, has this introduction that sounds like a Viagra Boys song. And I was like, this is awesome. This is so unexpected. And then it gets in and it sounds more like a Queens of the Stone Age song, but they build from that different basis. And I've got to say, if you're a fan of Queens of the Stone Age, check out the album. Like, just don't listen to your worries if you think it's not going to sound like what you like. It's worth it. But furthermore, if you're really into things like Weird's production and things like that, it is one of the best made albums. Like, listening with good headphones is like a whole different experience, because they do really weird things. There's like really weird layering, sound effects over vocals, the way that like they've gone back to something they did back in Songs to Death, where in a lot of songs they'd have the other band members whispering the lyrics.
Yeah.
And they've added that back in on this one, but in a different way, like less of like a creepy whisper sometimes and more of like a unsettling jangle kind of sound. I can't put into words how happy I was that it was a good album. It was good. Maybe, I'm not saying it was necessarily the best, but without a doubt.
I really liked it as well.
Yeah, without a doubt, really it's in the top 5.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Really good.
Yeah.
Was that your...
That's my little piece. I had to talk about it. I'll never stop gushing about the band. I just think musically they're one of the most interesting and talented bands ever. And this album is added to that. So yeah.
I agree.
Do you want to talk about another album?
Yes, I do. I just want to say I really, really agree. I do actually think that was very well said, because I really like that album.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to talk about Raw Blood.
Yes.
This is kind of one that it will be on both of our lists.
It is on my list, yeah.
Back to the Water Below, I forgot what it was called then. It was just a really good album. I'm just trying to collect my thoughts here. It was, in a way, it was different, but it wasn't, it wasn't a departure, it was a progression.
Yeah. Can I make a bombshell comment?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's their best album, but I think it's the best writing of any of their stuff. So this is their 4th album.
I see what you mean.
I think, if you're taking into account all of the musical ability and technicality they're putting into it, it wins. Like,
It's quite sophisticated.
Yeah. I think I don't think it'll be many people's personal favorites because like the classics, but in terms of sophistication, it's miles ahead of, I'd say, all their albums.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with it.
You really liked it.
I really did. Yeah, I was in love with the album. At first, I had so many doubts. I heard "Mountains at Midnight," the lead single.
Yeah, I wouldn't have picked that as a lead single.
No,
I think I like it. I think it's a good song, and I think it'd be awesome live. But when they dropped that, I was like, okay.
My first thought when I heard it was, oh, it's more of the same.
Yeah.
That was basically my thought.
It's a good song, but I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not really adding much.
Because that was my problem with Raw Blood recently, had been they didn't progress their sound. And they did in ways, but I don't feel like they ever took it far enough.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I heard Mountain at Midnight and I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're just doing this again for the fourth time now. But then I heard the rest of the album and I was like, oh my gosh, like,
it's really different.
it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry, I've sort of cut in a bit.
No, you talk.
So
I cut into you.
I think I've said this, my standout song from the album was "There Goes My Cool," and I think the thing that, to me, that I thought is, it sounds like a Bowie song. Like,
I actually agree.
Yeah, he takes that sort of like the poppy, I guess like space opera sort of sound that Bowie had, and his vocals match that sort of stuff perfectly as well, because he's got quite a croony voice, and I think it's really good for it. And "There Goes My Cool" has just the most amazing vocal melodies, and it's not like a heavy, fast-paced song, but it still has like a really chunky guitar sound that everyone loves from Raw Blood. It still has a really cool solo that isn't like super like intense, like moshy, but it has that technicality and like just has melody. And it's just so nice to be able to listen to it and think, oh my God, this is so beautifully made. I love it.
I love it too. I want to say, but I don't want to, it's going to sound like I'm flexing, but I interviewed Ben in November because they were coming to Australia for the Back to the Water Below tour. And what was it he said? He was talking about kind of what we're talking about, how, you know, with each album they've tried to progress and stuff. But he said something that I thought was quite interesting, where this album is, you know, it's like a new sound for them, but it's a new sound for the listeners to hear, but it's not really a new sound for them. Because he's, you know, apparently, not apparently, but he said that piano was Mike's first instrument, and that he actually, like, historically throughout Raw Blood, he would write a song on piano, and then they would sort of take that melody, and then they would Raw Blood it up and put, replace the piano with bass, essentially.
Yeah.
Or the piano would just be like the singing melody. But he's like, with this album, they just did that and they just kept it. Yeah. And that, in a way, it was something new for us to hear, but for them, it was actually a bit more authentic.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because you never think that a two-piece band would write on a different instrument to the ones they play.
I know, yeah.
Because it's like, how do they have the room to experiment with that? But I think that's what makes the band special. I think they're really...
Yeah.
I actually am so excited to see like how that band can progress.
Me too.
They've just actually impressed me so much with it. I'm very happy.
Me too.
Yeah, it was in terms of my expectations versus what it was, one of the best things about 2023.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Do you want to say another one?
Yes. I want to talk about another band that was huge, that released another album, which was Psychedelic Porn Crumpets. And I'm talking about them next because it's a similar situation to Raw Blood for me, in that I was a little bit falling out of love with Psychedelic Porn Crumpets because I had a bit of a sense that they were going a bit stagnant. Their last album, Night Gnomes, so not the most recent, the one before, was good, and it has some of my favourite songs by them ever. But again, I didn't feel overly engaged with it, and then I wasn't grabbed by it. It had one of the best opening songs I think they've ever written, but the rest of the album didn't feel like it could follow that up and just went back to what they were already doing. I was just like, you know, like, you guys are so cool and experimental, so how are you sounding the same? It was kind of frustrating me a bit. And then Franzoli comes out, their most recent album, and it is so Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, but genuinely like different, even though it's a different kind of progression. So with Raw Blood, we had a complete change because it was different instrumentation and style. Whereas with Psychedelic Prawn Crumpets, they are still doing what they're known best for, which is the crazy guitar solos with synthy sort of sounds and insanely high energy, intense stuff, but completely unique, like so over the top, almost like satire, but to a point that they've not done before. They've always had a bit of like a joke with their sort of stuff, like weird names, weird concepts, overly being like gratuitous about things like drugs and things like that. But with this one, like they take it to another level.
Yeah.
Like, so the first song is called Newtmare brackets KILLING, as in killing, another brackets meow. And it's like, when I saw that, I was like, that's so stupid. But then I listened to the song, and only they could write a song that pulls off such a stupid name because it's so good. Any other bands, and I'd be like, you're so stupid, I'm not listening to this. But they match that energy with the song. And so it's like, fair enough. Call it what you want. If you're going to make music like that, go for it. And listen to the album. If you're a fan of intense hard rock, it will blow you away. It's so good. It's, you just have to get over the weirdness a little bit because they can be a bit strange.
Yeah, but if you like them, you're used to that though.
That's the thing, and they're only turning it up, so it's almost like an indulgence. That's the thing; it doesn't feel stale because it's everything feels like it's turned up to 10. But when they've done that before, is she twitching?
Yeah.
When they've sort of done that before, where they just make things louder, it kind of felt a bit stale. But that's not what they've done on this. They've just made it more. They've made the punches hit harder instead of just being more punches. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot to say about this one. Not because it's bad or anything, just because I listened to it and I enjoyed it, and I don't know, I didn't have a groundbreaking epiphany about it, but an album I wanted to mention was the new album by the Witches. It's called Our Guest Can't Be Named. I listened to it, when did I listen to it? Like a couple of weeks ago. I really liked it. It was really good. Not my favourite by them. But that's not me like making a diss. It's just not my favourite. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a good it was nice to have a release from them this year. And yeah, it's just good to see them like keep on making good music.
I agree.
Excited for what's to come. That's all I have to say, really.
I also didn't listen to it enough, but I did find it just before we left Australia, and what I remember of it was that. Thinking, why did I not hear about this? Considering that I follow them, it wasn't
marketed very well.
It wasn't, but they're not a huge band, so I can understand it. But I thought that, considering that we follow their socials and things like that, that it would have come up, but apparently not. But that's fine. It's not necessarily like, it doesn't detract from the album.
Yeah.
And I do remember thinking there was a couple of songs on there, and I was like, okay, this is sick. There's a couple of songs on there that really strike me as like. They're such a dark band already, but they take it very gothic on a couple of them, where it's almost like
they do.
It's almost like a bit Black Sabbath, like church bells kind of sounding. You're like,
they do.
It makes you feel like you're listening to a band that should be called The Witches, which is cool.
Yeah, they live up to their name.
They do. I'm really glad you mentioned that because I thought about it, but I didn't know if I was going to mention it or not. So I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to mention one?
Yes. This is the last one that I want to mention that is a classic of ours that we talk about a lot, which was Tiger Cub's most recent album.
Oh, yeah.
The Perfume of Decay, so close to a 10 out of 10 album. Almost a 10 out of 10 album for me. They basically in my head, they were an indie band that became a hard rock band, and with this, they've almost become a metal band.
Yeah.
It's like progressively getting heavier, whereas most bands do the opposite. And
so that's what Don Broco did.
Exactly, yeah. And I love it. Like, the first 5 singles, which are the first 5 songs on the album, if you like heavy music, just listen to those first 5, and I can guarantee that they'll go in your playlists. Like, it is so good as an opening A-side to an album. It's just perfection. It is like, it's heavy, dark, gothic, and dripping with technical guitar. And it's a 3-piece band. But the thing that really stuck with me, so I showed it to someone I used to work with, and she's a fan of Muse. And she went, they remind me of Muse if Muse were still a rock band. because they're playing really heavy, intricate guitar licks, but he doesn't scream per se. He does the soft, like, falsetto, but it doesn't make it a soft song. What it makes it is like a haunting kind of like beautiful vocals over like an intense, heavy guitar riff. And not many bands still do that, and it's really cool. I really like it. Yeah, even if you don't like them, just listen to the first like 5 songs on the album, because it's like, it's insane. It's so good. I've got one more for my top 5. Have you got any more?
I have one more that I would like to mention. Again, this is down to the whole thing that I won't rehash, but we said right at the beginning about how, you know, I didn't deep dive and I was lazy, but I just wanted to mention the new Blur album, The Ballad of Darren. I really like what I've heard. I have not listened to the whole thing, which is really embarrassing for me to say here as a really big fan. Part of that was because a thing of like, I never had the time to like sit down, headphones on, silence, and like listen to it and think about it. Also, I was a bit sad that we missed out on seeing them live. Our fault.
That was a bit
in Australia, but it was just very gutting after having waited since I was like 17, and then it didn't happen. So I was a bit, every time I'd listen to it, I'd just think about it. So it just kind of made me sad. So I didn't listen to them that much. But I would like to say what I've heard, I love. And it made me very happy in general release. I think it's really good. But yeah, I haven't really done the deep dive, so I can't say any more than that. But that's my explanation, and that's my thoughts really.
Yeah, I did listen to the album once all the way through. I think the thing is you're right. It's an album that you need to listen to properly, because it's an incredibly emotional and sort of like, I guess deep sounds a bit like edgy, you know, it's deep, but like it's not an album for easy listening. It's an album that's trying to tell a story. And so like if you don't give it the due time, you're not going to enjoy it that much. But I can say for sure that The Narcissist, which was the only single for the entire album, I think
so,
is an incredible song. It is one of the most like hauntingly beautiful pop songs I've ever heard. I love it.
Me too.
One more to say. Damon Albarn is just a genius. Yeah. So my last top 5 song album was The Wailer by a band called Home Is Where. And I found them just one day. It was on an online forum, and this album came up because someone was talking about them, and someone went, this is actually one of my favorite albums of the year. It's so nice to know that like there's still up and coming bands that are making really cool different music. And I thought, okay, that sounds cool. I'll check it out. The artwork is really awesome. And I don't think there's a better way of describing it than exactly what they said. The fact that there is a new band that is taking these kind of like sonic risks and being this experimental. I can only describe it as like a almost like a, you know, like the 2000s Midwest emo kind of sound. That mixed with sort of like your black MIDI post-punk, melded together with really, really hauntingly emotional like vocals and energy. But like it's not like a fun pop punk song, but it pulls like aspects of that to make their songs have energy. But then it's not a depressing emo song, because it just pulls aspects of that, and it makes this amalgamation of all these sort of genres that you listened to when you were in your teen years, and then they make something that sounds fresher than anything that's come out in the last 10 years. And it's like, it's really cool that there is a brand new band. This is their first album. They've had an EP before, and it's really cool that a brand new band is sounding so far ahead of bands that have been going for 15 years. Like Green Day recently released an album, and admittedly I haven't listened to it, but from what I've heard, from the scraps I've heard, it's like, cool, you're still doing exactly what you did 20 years ago. And so then you get a brand new band that technically pulls from the same fan base, and it's just 1,000 times more interesting. And it's like, I'm not going to listen to Green Day. I'm going to listen to the new band, I think, actually. So listen to The Wailer by a band called Home Is Where, if any of that sounds cool. That is my top 5.
And that's my top 5 as well.
I just want to give a couple of honorable mentions, super, super, super quick. King Gear's released 2 albums. Pretty cool, very different. One is like a pop synth album. One is another metal album. So if either of those sound interesting, check them out. The Squid album was really good. Oh Monolith had one of my favourite songs of the year. I just didn't get grabbed by the rest of the album, but I think it just needs more listening. It's called Oh Monolith. And the last one, which almost made my top 5, was the Hives album, The Death of Randy Fitzsimmons. The only reason I can't give it is because it feels like it's too similar to their old stuff. But if you are a fan of a more classic rock sound, as opposed to like sort of more alt, more emo sort of sound, if you just want like a more classic rock sound, listen to their album. Particularly like the standout tracks being like the opening 2. My gosh, like so fun. I think if they're playing live, we have to go see them. I think they are going to be awesome live. The new album is so fun. And yeah, that was my other albums I wanted to mention.
I have one honourable mention. Not an album, but Idol's released 2 singles, and they're both really, really good.
Yeah.
They're called Grace and Dancer, or The Dancer. It's just Dancer, I can't remember.
I haven't listened.
They're
so
really
what are they
good.
like? Because I've heard they're quite quite a bit more stripped back. I don't know if stripped back's the right term, but more like similar to the more recent stuff as opposed to the early stuff, where instead of being like angry punk, it's more like honest, emotional punk.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah, it's not super. There's not a lot to it. It's quite straight up.
So am I wrong? Am I just
no?
wrong?
You're right. You're right. I'm just trying to think of. Dancer definitely isn't emotional, really.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I can't really remember the lyrics to Grace now, but like that's quite a pretty song.
Okay.
I wouldn't call either of them like stripped back, but great. I think Grace definitely like falls under that description. Dance is like very fun.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just very energetic, very fun. I'm really excited to see like if they're going to drop an album next year. I think it'll be really good. I have listened to those 2 singles a lot.
Okay.
And I think they're really good. I would definitely recommend you check them out. If you didn't hear, that's Grace and Dancer by Idol. Really good. Definitely give them a listen.
Oh dear.
Dusty threw a little fit.
Dusty is signalling that it's time
to move on.
Yes,
thank you, Dusty, for reminding us. It's time for a game, I think.
Yeah. So
I've told us you can't read it.
We haven't figured out exactly what the leeway should be, but essentially the game is going to be using our Spotify Wrapped. Now, we knew we were going to talk about our Spotify Wrapped because
why wouldn't we do it? We used to do it on radio every year.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, we're a bit late to the show, but that doesn't matter. That's fine. Okay. So we decided to pick. Have we done 5 songs? Yeah,
I think we can. How should we mention our tops?
I reckon we'll do it after. Because it might give it away.
Let's have a game. Yeah. So what we've done is, you know how with your Wrapped you have your like roundup, but then alongside it you have your playlist, which also goes beyond to your top 100 songs. We thought it'd be fun if we picked out 5 random songs from our playlist, tell the other one, and you have to guess roughly where it would be in our top 100. With the leeway, maybe let's say a leeway of 10.
Yeah.
Ish.
So do you want to? Should we say? Are we trying to guess the 10 it's in, or just if you're within 10?
Just like within 10.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
So yeah, like we'll say a song, and then where we think that song is in our top 100.
This is going to be quite funny because I think you could get some of these so wrong.
I think I'll get all yours completely wrong. I think you'll get all mine completely wrong.
Look, I'll read mine all out first.
Yeah.
So, like we said, we did a lot of listening to music when we were in the van. So not all of these songs are from that, but a couple are, and the first one definitely is. So my first one is one of the only songs from the album that made my top 100, which shows you we must have listened to it because we were listening to this one together. So, Them Crooked Vultures, you know it's one of my favourite albums, but only 3 of their songs made the top 100. One of them was Dead End Friends.
That's always in my top 100.
Yeah. So, Dead End Friends by Them Crooked Vultures. Jenny, where do you think it was in my top 100 songs of the year on Spotify?
I'm going to go 20.
You are close enough.
What was it?
It was 15.
Yes!
Nice one.
That's pretty good.
So I didn't know if you'd get that because I thought I was going to throw you off with my comments.
I didn't think it would be top, but what? Because you said about Van?
Yeah, well, because I didn't listen to that album that much this year. So the only ones that made the top were the one I play on guitar, which was No One Loves Me, Neither Do I, and Dead End Friends. And that's because we listened to that loads when we were driving and things like that. And I thought
that was on my phone when we were driving, wasn't it?
Not always, sometimes.
Okay.
So I was thinking, oh, she'll just disregard it, but apparently not. So well done.
That was quite fair to me, the way you've done that, and you've like actually sort of picked your song for a reason. You've given me context. I haven't done that for you.
Brilliant. I wonder who's going to win this one.
I didn't really think. I'm not going to lie. I've just gone with like a couple that make sense. That are new songs that we've might have touched on. But I just thought it'd be funny if I picked really random ones and just made you guess.
Brilliant.
Start off. This is a big one. So I've started off to ease you in. Intergalactic by Beastie Boys.
Oh my god. Oh no, it's so hard. When did you go through that craze of watching the Diary of a Wimpy Kid films?
Do you have to mention that?
Yeah, I think I do, yeah.
I wouldn't call it a craze. I would just call it 2 days where I watched.
I think you watched at least the first 2 or 3.
I can't remember if I watched the third one.
Well, is it the second one or the first one that has the scene? Where they dance to it?
I think it's the first one.
Shall we scrap music discussion? We should make this a Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
I think it's the first one. I would like to mention though, that's not tied to that. It was on the playlist when I worked up in Cairns. And also it's my favourite Beastie Boys song. Okay. Anyway, so
I reckon it's going to be within 10 of 30.
Nearly.
Oh no, how close?
Not actually that close.
What was it?
8.
8? You made your top 10?
I really, really like that.
My God, okay. Fair enough.
You nearly got it.
I'll take the L. All right, well, this one's going to surprise you.
Okay.
The Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen.
Okay.
So for those who might not know, this is one of Jenny and I's favourite songs of all time. So it's the one we often listen to together.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we listen to it a lot, but I don't think it would be like that high up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think. I'm going to say 50.
You are halfway there.
Is it 100?
It was the 100th most listened to song. It was bottom of the list.
Oh, that's so annoying. I was going to say, I was like, I don't think we've listened to it that much.
Yeah, that surprised me. I thought we listened to it loads.
Yeah.
It's in playlists of mine.
Probably listened to it on my phone as well, though.
True.
Yeah,
True.
Pretty balanced.
Yeah.
My go again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is topical. We listen to this song a lot, and I listen to this song a lot, and I made you listen to this song a lot, and I put this song on a lot, because we were in Australia, where in my top 100 was Down Under by Men at Work.
This is so funny because I've done it as well.
Have you?
Yeah, it's on mine as well.
We can see, we can compare.
Okay, I think. I think it's going to be 25.
That is so close. 23.
Yes!
That's so good.
Yes!
What led you to that?
Because I remember you playing it so often when we were in the first house in Cairns.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I think it's going to be really high up there.
I really like that song as well.
Well, since you mentioned it, would you like to guess where Down Under was on my top 100?
I think it will definitely be a lot lower on yours. I can't see it being in the first 50.
Okay.
73.
I'm sorry.
Where was it?
It's 36.
Really?
36
I didn't
most.
think you listened to it that much.
Down Under, Men at Work, 36th most listened to song last year.
Oh, I've fallen off.
You
Embarrassing.
crumbled.
Oh, God, crumbled.
Oh, dear.
My go again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's one that I also listen to a lot.
Yeah.
I like this song.
Yeah.
We did karaoke to it recently. Wake Me Up Before You Go. Where was that in my top 100s?
So this is a bit of a meta meta game sort of like thought here. Jenny counted these on her phone, so.
You say it's going to be wrong?
So no, I'm not saying it's going to be wrong. I'm saying you wouldn't have bothered to count if it was too far. I know, because you would have just counted from the bottom. Would you have done that?
Or I could have counted it from the last one I did.
Ah, that's true, actually. All right.
You can say all of mine will be like the top
first 20
and bottom 20. I can't be bothered to count the middle.
I'm going to go against my theory there. I'm going to say 45th.
68.
Ah, see, I knew I was like the wrong side of 50. I thought it was going to be a bit higher than that.
Only just under.
Well, okay, I'll take that. What are we currently? You've got 1.
Yeah, I've got. Well, you wrote down your point, my point on yours. You've got 1 point, yeah.
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 Okay.
Sorry, I made that confusing when it didn't need to be. Sorry.
All right, this is your second and last song.
Okay.
So, as the aforementioned Psychedelic Porn Crumpets album, the song that I loved that was their lead single, Newtmare, where do you think that was in my top 100?
7.
No. 60th.
Oh.
Miles off.
You led me on. That's not fair.
It's not.
Oh dear, I'm not doing very well. You made me think as well. I've written down 6. I know we just had a go at my count.
What do you mean you wrote down 6?
I wrote down 6 songs.
You were surprised when I said let's do 5, and then you just went and did more.
You can just have the last one as a bonus if you want.
Okay.
My next one, this is kind of embarrassing for me, but I just thought it was too funny to not include it. This is so random, you have no chance. You just have to completely guess.
Thank you. Can I have this one as the bonus one?
Okay.
Because I might have a chance of getting the other ones.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, that sounds fair. I'll save that one. Okay, you've just filled it up, so remember that.
Tension.
Okay, a bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
Shiner in the Dark by Royal Blood. My favourite song off that new album that we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Shiner in the Dark. Where's that one?
15th.
17th.
Oh, yes.
That's the second time you've done that. That's a really good guess.
I knew it would be high. I knew that would be high.
I really like that song. I only started listening to that album quite late as well.
Okay, I'm glad. I actually think this is going to be the first game I win.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, the 5th one, the final one. Where do you think The Narcissist by Blur was in my top 100?
53.
No, I'm sorry. It was 38th. It was better than you thought.
Gutting. Yeah, that is really high, actually.
I really liked it. I thought it was a really good song.
I didn't think you would have listened to it that much.
I made a little playlist so there was actually one album I forgot to mention earlier. I'm going to mention after, when some albums came out, and I put my favourite songs from the new albums on, and that was top of it. That was one of my favourite ones.
Okay. Last official one. There was a new PJ Harvey album this year. I Inside the Old Eye Dying was one of the singles. Where was that?
I reckon it would have been 70.
86.
Oh, no.
I just missed it.
No. Oh, God. Okay.
Close, though. You were very good. You were on the right end of 100.
Yeah, I was close.
Yeah.
That was a pretty educated guess, you know? All right, hit me with my bonus. I don't have a bonus for you.
If you get this... Wait, how many points... Wait, let's have a refresh. You're on 2.
You're on 1.
Okay, you've won anyway. But you can double super win.
Double win?
If you get this one.
Hit me.
Now we are free from the Gladiator soundtrack. The song that plays at the end when he dies.
I remember you playing this in the car, and I had to sort of like look at you as if to say like, can we move this along?
Where's that one? A great song, by the way. I'm not embarrassed.
Oh. Yeah, stand proud.
I am proud.
I think that is going to be 40th.
53.
Oh, no.
You're really close.
So close.
I gave you a clue before I guessed 53 to test if you would think of any random number that 53 might be in your head.
I can't even be mad because that actually is quite smart. That's why I was really gutted when I guessed Down Under. I had to try and guess not my number because I didn't want you to just think, well, he's just gonna,
exactly.
He's going to put what I put.
I was trying to help you.
Yeah. All right.
You win.
Ding, ding, ding.
Well done.
I finally won.
Dusty says congratulations.
I'm going to edit in some sound effects for this bit.
Yay. You can read out your rap first.
Okay.
We'll finish off with, we'll go over our raps and then what we're looking for next year.
So I'll probably put up a picture of the raps so anyone watching can visually see this. But to go through for those on the podcast. So I'm not going to lie, none of this is a surprise, except it has reminded me that there's a huge album band that I forgot to talk about that had a massive year. So my top 5 artists of 2023, according to Spotify. Number 1 was Queens of the Stone Age. No surprises there. I think they actually... no, they have. Maybe Tropical Fuck Storm snuck in last year. Don't remember. Anyway, second was Demo Pappy. Can't believe I forgot to talk about Demo Pappy. I will go into a bit more in a minute, but they released an album and it was probably my second favourite album of the year. Maybe favourite. Third, Tiger Cub. Fourth, Psychedelic Porn Crumpets. And fifth, Royal Blood. So... basically a complete copy of my top 5 albums, which would make sense, I suppose.
Makes sense, yeah.
And then my top 5 songs. So there's a bit of variation here, except 4 of them are by Queens of the Stone Age.
The variation is that one of them isn't by Queens of the Stone Age.
And that one is still by Desert Sessions, which is Josh Homme's side project. And
Stay true to yourself.
So, number 1 was 3 of them. Number 1 was actually Voodoo Science by Demo Pappy. I don't know why I said that wrong. Let's refresh. Number 1, top listened to song, Voodoo Science by Demo Pappy, which was the lead single. Also, weirdly, probably my least favourite single from the album.
Oh, really?
But because it was the lead one, I listened to it so much because when it came out, second was also my least favourite single from Queens of the Stone Age. And that was Emotion Sickness. A good song, but not my favourite on the album at all.
Same.
Third was Crucifier, as in Desert Sessions.
You do love that song.
I do love that song. And to add to it, it's also got Mike Kerr singing on it, so it's only adding to how varied my list is. Fourth was my actual favourite single from the Queens of the Stone Age album. The song is Paper Machete. Oh my god. Has maybe the best guitar solo I've ever heard. Maybe ever. Like, awesome. And fifth is the El Clasico, Go With The Flow, from Queens of the Stone Age Songs to the Death. Because that song will never fail to me.
Old Faithful.
Old Faithful. Always there for me. Always there for me. And I wrote it down in case you're interested. I listened to 24,000 minutes of music.
I didn't write mine down.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it's dramatically less than the year before.
Mine's really low as well. Yeah.
And I think probably because we listen to so much music together that it's shared between our devices, and also we just listen to less music in general. We were much more busy. Yeah. There was a lot less downtime where I was sat around putting music on or traveling to work every day, and instead we were driving around together. So
my listening minutes were really low as well. Should I go over mine?
Hit me with your rap.
Okay, so mine is I would say my artists are like completely predictable. My songs are like predictable, but they're just kind of some of them are a bit random. So my top artists, number 1 is Fontaine's DC.
Always. That's Old Faithful.
That's Old Faithful. Second year in a row. I can't remember what was it? I was in their top. I can't remember what it was, but I was
ridiculous.
I was quite chuffed. I was really high. Second is Post Malone because of Austin.
Yep.
Third is PJ Harvey. 2 or 3 years ago, she was my top artist 2 years running, and then Fontaine's took over. But I used to be really high up in her listeners as well.
Yeah.
Fourth was Wolf Alice.
Really?
Yeah. I really listen to Wolf Alice more than you think. I really like them.
Yeah. I can tell.
Fifth was Royal Blood. Same as you. So I think those are that represents me very well. Those 5 artists, and literally sums me right up. My songs, I think, were a little bit more varied. So this is the only song that's actually from. So I have one song in my top 5 that's from an artist in my top 5. All the others are from artists that aren't in my top 5.
Really?
Yeah, that's why it's like a bit random.
Okay, hit me.
Because this is what I mean, where like all my favourites, I've listened to like all my favourite albums over and over and over again, but I've listened to lots of different songs that I've like gotten into. It's kind of what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
So my top song is Something Real by Post Malone, obviously.
I saw that one coming.
And yeah, that is my only song in there that's from a top artist. So, number 2 is You're Dead by Norma Tanega.
You love that song.
I really like that song. If you don't know it or you don't know the name, it is a song that plays in What We Do in the Shadows, the film, in the intro. It's just really cool, like bluesy. It's not very long, it's quite a short song. I just really like it. The lyrics and the imagery are just really striking, and I really like the guitar riff. It's just awesome.
It is cool. Yeah.
I listened to it a lot on Cairns when it was really, really hot.
It fits that aesthetic, doesn't it? Yeah.
My third was Deepest Darkness by Ocean Alley.
I
used to play that a lot in the car.
When in Australia.
Especially when we were driving around the rainforest. Anytime we got in the car, basically, I played that song. I think it's a very good car song. Fourth was Kamikaze by Wine Lips. I thought that would be my top or like second top song because I listened to Wine Lips a lot last year. I thought they would be maybe in my top 5 artists, but they weren't. That was definitely my walking to work song.
Yeah.
Kamikaze. I think that's such a good song. And then 5th was Sicily by Queens of the Stone Age.
It made your top 5?
Yeah, it made my top 5.
Nice.
That was my favourite on the album and one of my favourites of the year. I really, really liked that song.
I would like to quickly point out something. So I think that our Wrapped tell us quite a lot about how we listen to music, particularly last year. I got very focused on comfort bands but new albums. So almost all of my stuff is based on releases. So if you look at every album, every artist, every single one of those artists, Queens, D-Mob, Tiger Cub, PPC, Raw Blood, all released an album, and that was where the majority of my listens came from. But they're all bands that are comfort bands for me, and similarly the songs match that. Not necessarily all new, but they're all from those artists. Whereas yours really are comfort, but the difference with yours is that the songs don't match them.
No.
Which I think tells us a bit that you probably were focusing more on certain songs that were grabbing you, where I was focusing on these new albums that had grabbed me. And that's kind of when we obviously, because generally we were listening together, so a lot of it's going to be similar. And then when it breaks away, that was the routes that we took. I think that's really interesting.
It's funny, isn't it? We kind of take the opposite direction in, don't we?
Yeah, because I don't know what it was called, but do you remember on the Wrapped this year, they gave you like a little, a thing that describes how you listen to music?
Yeah, I do remember. I can't remember what it's called.
I think I remember what yours was and what mine was. I don't remember what they were called, but mine was I listen to albums from start to finish, and yours was you make playlists. And that sums us up really. And it matches this. It's right. Cool. And I think it's true. I almost always, if I'm listening to music on my own, 9 times out of 10, I'll listen to it as an album. The only time I'll listen to a playlist is if I want it just to be like mindless in the background, like I'm doing a chore or I'm going to the gym or something like that. But if I'm traveling and I've got nothing else to focus on, I want to listen to an album. That's just how I always am.
I think kind of a lot of the time the same, but that's why those artists, that is literally because I have favourite albums by all of those artists in my top 5 that I put on regularly, but obviously just not as regularly as like these songs that grab me. I'll listen to them before I listen to anything else, and then when I'm bored, I'll be like, okay, album on.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
It is interesting. So that was our year.
Yeah, I think one thing I do just want to mention, it's so disgraceful to me that I forgot to mention D-Mob Happy earlier.
Yeah.
They are probably my favourite band behind Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah.
They are a actual independent, not indie sounding, but indie actually, rock band from currently Brighton, originally from Newcastle. And I genuinely think they are the possible like sort of future face of independent British rock music. Their album that came out is absolutely fascinating. It's incredible, and I won't say any more because we haven't got much time. But if there's one thing I ask for you, listen to God's Coffee transition into Run Baby Run. It is maybe the best rock song it's probably my favourite song of the entire year. If I had to pick a song, that's my favourite song of the year. And the way that they introduce it with the transition from the one before, it's just like an interlude.
Nice.
It's so good. It's like, it makes your ears tingle, you know? It gives you that shiver when you listen to a song and you're like, yeah. That's all I'm going to say because we don't have much time. But
no.
I can't. I'm so sorry I didn't mention you earlier, D-Mob. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that was our year.
Yeah.
Do you want to just briefly, before we finish, just mention some stuff you're excited for next year?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't have much concrete stuff, so
No,
I'm going to steal the big one if that's okay.
Go on then.
Download Festival. Yeah. I think we mentioned the lineup in the last episode.
It's gone better though.
It has.
Who's been Limp Bizkit?
Limp Bizkit. So if you want to check out our thoughts on the lineup, check out the last episode. But that festival is looking to be actually awesome.
Yeah.
It's looking to be incredible.
I think we should go if we can.
If we can, definitely. I've got a few things to look forward to. I'm seeing Psychedelic Porn Crumpets in February, which is a lovely gift that was given to me. And also, I didn't know this, I found out King Giz are playing in May in Bristol.
Really?
In Bristol.
Oh my god, we have to get a ticket.
I didn't know. So if I can afford it, I'd love to go to that.
That'd be amazing. We should get a ticket.
Yeah, we should. So that's the three major things I'm really looking forward to.
You stole mine.
Sorry.
I'm really looking forward to new music from Idols as well. Just generally my favourite artists. Just looking forward to new music from people. Hopefully a lot more gigs. Hopefully a lot more interviews.
Yeah. So a couple of things I also wanted to mention is some goals for the new year. Obviously we're a couple of weeks in now, so it kind of feels like cheating, but I think there's a personal goal that I sort of want to achieve, and there's also one that I think collectively is a good idea.
Yeah.
I think we should try and expand on the podcast as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And I would love it if we can try and get some interviews. And I think sort of as a message, we would love to interview anyone almost.
Yeah.
So I think we'll probably maybe try and reach out to some small bands, but
definitely.
Also if anyone who plays music is listening to this and would like to come on the show, contact us. Yeah. It would be really cool to have people on the show, even if it's just for like a 5-minute intersection, or if you'd like to feature
full interview. Yeah,
for like a really good chunk of the episode. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And you can meet Dusty.
And another thing, a personal goal of mine is I am thinking about setting myself a challenge to like listen to something like an album a week or something like that.
Cool.
Because this is the thing, is last year I didn't listen to much new music apart from the obvious stuff. And so I was like, I kind of need to make up for a bit. And I kind of would like to also listen to classics that I never gotten around to listen to. And if I sort of set myself a challenge, I feel like that's doable.
Yeah.
So I might do that.
Definitely.
And maybe we could do it together and we could try and integrate it a bit.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Have you got anything in the new year that you're looking to do?
I tried to do the song a day thing before. I've not really stuck to it very well. I think kind of same. I just want to push myself out there a bit and just listen to more different stuff. I have a reading challenge I've set myself, but that's not very relevant to the podcast. I will be trying to read 40 books a year, if anyone would like to hear about that, but I don't think you would.
It's cool.
But yeah, I just want to expand my horizons and just try myself out there musically a bit.
I think it's hopefully going to be a big year. Yeah. And also, the main thing that I'm actually most excited for is being back in England. Music was one of the biggest things I missed in Australia.
Me too.
And so once we found our feet a bit better, I am hoping to jump with both feet back into music. And I want to sort of explore local scene as well as what's happening in general.
Yeah.
So, big year, big stuff.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up this episode of the Talking Tunes podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
And
thank you for thank you for your patience, and thank you for coming back to us in the new year. Please, in the comments, let us know what you think of our new member. She didn't add much to the
No.
conversation today.
Well, I was just gonna. Oh dear.
I'm not gonna lie, she could be a bit more vocal. You know, what's her opinion on Demo Pappy?
What do you think, Dusty?
I think that's a good sign.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I think that's a good sign.
Oh, that's very interesting. Thank you, Dusty.
And well, on that bombshell.
On that bombshell, I don't think there's anything we can add to that. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you soon.